This is an update video on the Motorcraft 4300 video that I made about a week or so ago, and I need to correct something that I kind of assumed, but turns out through testing that it was actually the opposite of what I thought. And that has to do with the off idle or initial throttle input bog. So this would manifest itself obviously off idle, like I mentioned, but then also just cruising around. If I ever took my foot off and then put my foot back onto the throttle, it would often bog. On these carburetors, there's 3 adjustments here. Now, it's interesting because in the Ford Tech manual from this year, they say very clearly that you're not supposed to adjust this position. Now, I don't know why they would tell you that. It's made to be adjusted. I don't know what their reasoning was. Potentially, it was because they maybe thought that was the least likely thing, or that it would never really be an issue. So that's maybe why. But regardless, I've had this carburetor apart so many times. Had the top off literally countless times. A good 20 or 30 times easily. And I've torn the carburetor completely down twice so far. Anyways, I'm getting, fingers crossed, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm getting really close to having this thing dialed in. And anyway, so in the last video, I was thinking, oh, it must be, a lean bog, a lean stumble off of idle. So initially, I tried putting a little more timing in the car, and that seemed to kind of fix things. But that might have just been because it was burning a little more efficiently, a little hotter, thus, using a little more fuel, I guess. But still, I still kept coming back to the same bog issue. And then jogging my memory to the one time that I accidentally put it in the lean position, it occurred to me that it actually seemed to run the best like that. Given at the time, I was mistaken and thought that this was the rich position, but I had actually put it here once before. So anyways, to cut to the chase, what I've discovered, and I'm almost positive I'm correct this time, is that it was actually giving too much fuel. So the accelerator pump, it was working as designed to my knowledge. But for whatever reason, it's possible that with the rebuild that they did, it's performing even better than it did originally. But in any case, the way it is right now, or the way it was giving too much fuel, which is kind of funny because that's almost never the case with an accelerator pump or with an off-idle bog. If you do any research, it's almost always something about the pump not working correctly, or a blockage. Your nozzles aren't discharging. But with this carburetor, this engine, and this is a high compression, pretty beefy 429 and 715 CFM. So my instinct, and from what my research was always indicating that it must be lean, but that turned out not to be the case. So I'll get into what that was and how I figured that out. But I tried basically all 3 combinations, with nozzles, without nozzles, etc. I don't know how many combinations that works out to be in total. I guess 3 times whatever. I'm not good at ratios, but anyways, how I have it set now is in the lean position, and also then I knocked out my jets again. So I'll show you on a different carburetor. Oops. So this is a little bit of a different setup, but it's essentially the same carb. So this is a 4350, which came after the 4300. Very similar in some ways, but also a lot different. But anyways, what I want to show is these nozzles here. So these are the accelerator pump nozzles. So when the rubber diaphragm goes down in the hole, it comes up here. Now the only thing that's different is they put, instead of the piston-y thing that they have originally, the rebuilder put a ball bearing here. So that could contribute to getting a harder fuel shot. But the thing that's interesting to me is, because this is such a common problem with these being rich or having a off-idle bog. That's one of the biggest complaints with these carbs, is that they stumble, they have off-idle bogs, etc. The more I work on these, the more I'm starting to realize and kind of come to the conclusion that a lot of the problems with these carburetors are actually with too much fuel delivery. Now I'm not an expert. I don't have a ton of experience with motors and with carbs in general, but so maybe somebody with more experience would be able to tell the difference between a rich bog and a lean bog. I haven't really gotten to that point yet, but just by process of elimination, trial and error, I've established that at least the accelerator pump was causing a rich bog. So anyway, like I showed you, I have the accelerator pump set to the far left position, the far left hole, which is the lean. Gives you the shortest stroke, essentially. You're still going to get the same volume of fuel coming out, just like not as long of a shot, if that makes sense. But then what I've done, and I don't want to pop apart the other carburetor, so just show you on this one, but I popped these two brass nozzles out. So what that is doing, essentially, I thought initially it would be giving it more fuel, because my initial adjustment was that I put it to the rich position, so the far right hole, and I removed the nozzles. And I tried a lot of different combinations before that, but I did that and it performed the best that way. So I was like, oh, well, duh, I must, by taking these out, it's getting more fuel. But what I've come to realize is when you actually take these out, you technically might be getting a little bit more volume of fuel, but it's because with these removed, it's much lower of a pressure. So if you step on it with these nozzles in, you'll see, a fast, kind of atomized, semi-atomized stream of gasoline. So it's very fine and kind of like a pressure washer. But if you knock these out, it's more just like putting your thumb on a garden hose kind of. So it's should be more fuel going in, but less pressure. And therefore, essentially, it's not, it's getting less and not as pressurized. So it's not getting into the carburetor as fast. And it's not being sucked in as fast. So that's kind of my theory, because, as soon as you step on it, your throttle blade's opening. And I don't know what would cause that. My theory is that these carburetors actually transition very, very rapidly from your idle circuit to your boosters. And also your power jet kicks in very quickly. So this is a little bit different of a style of power jet on the 4350s. But on the 4300, as you may have seen in my previous videos, it's a spring. But anyways, this is my current working theory, is that it wants less fuel, not more. And if you're interested in trying this, it's easy enough to, move the pin on the accelerator pump lever to, try different combinations. If you're having this issue and it seems to be getting better the leaner, you may have the same thing. And like I said, I'm running this carburetor, which was designed, or I don't know what it was designed for, but it was typically put on smaller motors than what I'm using. And, so it stands to reason that a bigger motor wants more fuel. So, if I'm experiencing this on a 429 and you have this on a smaller motor, there's a really good chance what you're experiencing is also too much fuel, or too much fuel too soon. It could be any of the combination. So anyways, I just wanted to make this correction video and show you guys that. But the way you can remove these if you want to try is obviously You can do this with the carburetor on the car. You just have to take the top off. Obviously, make sure your butterflies are closed completely, because otherwise these could fall down. And they do tend to go flying. I already lost one. But what you do is, I don't have a screwdriver handy. Anyways, if you get a flat blade or something and you put it on the back side here, and you just gently tap it out, and it'll pop out the front here. And if you're careful with them, they won't be damaged. But if you're too rough with pounding, they'll probably smush a little bit, and they can be reinstalled very easily. So how you reinstall them is just set them in the hole. They're pretty hard to get in there, but set them in the hole, and then use like a drift punch or something very gently, or like a brass punch to seat them down again, and they just go flush. But anyways, just wanted to put that out there. Give that a try if you would like. I've tried, like I mentioned, I've tried literally every other combination. I've tried fully rich with the jets in, fully rich with the jets out, etc. Fully lean with them in, fully lean with them out, and fully in the full lean position, far left position on the lever, and with the jets removed, has given me, I have 0 bog right now. And it's to my recollection of all the times I've driven this car, I've never, it's gotten better depending on some things I've tried, but the bog has never completely gone away. But now I have 0 bog. So call it a defect with this carburetor, or whatever causes this. Could it be the rebuilder replacing this with a ball bearing, allowing too much fuel? Part of me doesn't really think that's what it was, because the nozzles are going to only let so much through. And it may be different on different carburetors. These 4300s tended to vary. Each year they were a little bit different. So mine is a 1972 model on the car, if I remember correctly. And if I didn't mention it, it's the 715 CFM spread bore. So they're known as the 4300D. And then, like I mentioned, I don't know if it's bogging because it's just getting because they overcompensated. One criticism of these carburetors is that Ford and Autolite Ford, whoever was in charge of designing them, kind of over-engineered them, and they're modeled after the Quadrajet. So over-engineering can sometimes turn out to be, you miss stuff in a way. But what could be happening, like I mentioned, is if it's too efficient in a way, transitioning from the idle circuit to the primary circuit, then that could be, because if it's just during that circuit, if it's getting too much fuel, etc. But aside from that, my carburetor runs the secondary full throttle. I'm getting lots of power. I don't think I could really ask for anything better. So I have kind of dialed the carb in. I'm trying with different jets, different spring pressure on the power jet, etc. One other thing that I had considered trying was trying to pinch the shut a little bit. That is an option too, but in my mind, if you pinch them, you ruin them, and you have a better shot of not ruining them by just taking them out. So anyways, I hope that was helpful. And if anybody has anything to add, if anybody has used these carburetors and actually has tried to work with them, I know a lot of people just replace them for the Holly. In fact, the Holly that came when I bought this car, it had a Holly on it, 600 CFM, and there's no information on it on like the the Holly list numbers. It has a list number, but when you Google it, it's not on any of the Holly charts. And apparently, the reason for that is because it was a Holly carburetor, it was a Motorcraft Holly carburetor. So it was like a Holly carburetor with a Motorcraft part number. So unless if I can find the Motorcraft chart for the list numbers, I have no idea exactly what carburetor it is. But I asked somebody who should know, have good knowledge on it, and they said it was a 600 CFM. But essentially, it was an actual like replacement carb designed, to some extent to replace these carburetors. So it was very common, kind of from when these cars came out, I think, but especially in the early 70s, it was super common to even go into the dealership, from what I understand, and they would take these off. Not this one specifically, because this car would have come with would have been, I think they were a 600 CFM or 650 at the most. Originally, the very early incarnations of them were a 440 CFM, I think, a very small. Then they realized that was stifling the engine so much, so then they bumped it up to whatever. And then this one they put on the Boss 351 and the 351. Was it the Cobra Jet? Anyways, I'm not super good with my Mustangs, but anyways, they put it on the 351 Clevelands, from my knowledge, and maybe the Windsors as well. And it seems like they may have put this one also on some of the police interceptors, but I'm a little fuzzy on those details. But anyways, bit of an info dump there, and it's honestly running fantastic. Like it's been such a headache, but I was really determined to make this work. And I've worked on it so much that I know it really well now, and so I really like it. Anyways, long enough video, so hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.